Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
Oh, let me plug in my real quick. All right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Oh, every time I see your great background, it reminds me that I need to get myself a better, more interesting background.
I didn't have the camera on because I was moving to this background and away from my backgrounds from the workday. So I do sometimes use this background on work meetings, but
It's very nice. It's a good one. All right, we'll get this thing. Well, I guess I will call the meeting to order at 7:32. Do we have any public participation?
I guess I'm the only one from the public.
I think you are. Hi, Jessica.
Hello, Jessica Butler. I'm from 852 Main Street. I guess I've been out of the habit of attending any of the meetings, so I figured I'd pop on and see what the subcommittee was doing. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. So this is the Community Education Subcommittee. So we're really focused on getting the word out about all the different things that the Environmental Sustainability Committee is doing. Spreading education where we can about all the different sustainability topics. Just making sure folks are informed about how they can get involved locally and personally around town and stuff like that. So, do you have any questions or comments for us? Anything you'd like to see?
That's a good question. I guess I'm thinking that there will be like specifically like the purview of the sustainability committee, and I'm failing to think of anything off the top of my head.
All right. Well, you're welcome to just sit and listen. And we're always happy to take emails or subsequent public participation in a future meeting. So thank you for joining us.
And Jessica, have you been any of these subcommittee meetings before, or?
I have not.
Okay.
I think it's just been the overall committee.
So just so you know, the main committee, the full committee meets once a month, as it seems you're familiar with that. So we set up these subcommittees last year to just be ways of trying to get some of the tasks done in between meetings, but because of the open meeting law and everything else, they are officially open meetings because we are not allowed to deliberate. So that's why it's just the two of us and you're the only member of the public. So the formalism is because we need to be open and transparent. But otherwise it's fairly informal. So our agenda is mostly just around our to-do items. So feel free to observe as much as you like. We also do want volunteers on the subcommittees or for other parts of the larger committee. So there are ways, and we have another colleague on the larger committee who's actually trying to coordinate volunteers so that we're more, consistent in how we engage volunteers. So you're welcome to lend person power to what we're doing if you like, but otherwise, if you're wondering why there's such a small meeting, that's why. So just wasn't sure if that was obvious.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sean. That was a really good point. All right. Well, then we can move on to the next item, which is approval of the minutes from the December meeting, which I sent just after the meeting.
All right, they looked great to me.
All right.
Move to approve.
All right. All in favor, Sean?
Aye.
Yes, I'm a yes. Minutes approved. Thank you. All right, so our next topic was about checking in again on our social media posts and general engagement. We had one very engaging topic, or one rather one very engaged day by one very engaged person who posted a bunch of stuff not necessarily relevant to the topics. Beyond that, we've had a couple of we've certainly had a bunch of shares. We've had some question. There was a question on the cardboard pop-up recycling over at Town Hall. Someone was asking whether that is better than just putting it in your own bin. Were there other topics that came up? I don't think there were any other engagements, but we've had, the same small number of likes and shares from our posts. A lot of the topics in the December time were about shopping, gift wrapping, that kind of stuff.
So there'll be more conversation about the topic that came up as sub chatter, I guess, on the social media posts. And that's something I did have some things I wanted to suggest here. I can mention it now, or we can wait till later in the agenda. But the context there, and you probably already figured some of this out. There's a lot of concern about the environmental impacts of the plans for the VOC.
Yes.
There's a very concerned set of Wakefield residents that feels that that the discussions around the VOC and the planning process for that has not been transparent, and there's reason to believe they're correct. And so they've turned their attention to the Environmental Sustainability Committee, because what they're really hoping for is that the ESC will will vote on an opinion and make that, and that will be the way to try to shake some folks out of what they see as complacency around these issues. I know we'll talk about this a lot at the meeting on Thursday, but they feel there's been a perfect storm of the process there. The fact that parts of this are not really town decisions, other parts have been, but happened in ways and at a time when just it might have been a perfect storm for some of these topics to not get full vetting. So they've really focused their attention on the ESC as what they think is their best chance of getting through. So I think Thursday will have a lot of public participation, and I know that there's other things on the agenda too. It's going to be a long meeting. And I have a few topics that came out of our discussion at the land use subcommittee, where some folks came that I thought were things that we could publicize while still staying within our remit of just making announcements, not So, and those were things I was going to suggest for the social media rotation.
Yeah, so I got your email on the biomap one. We should absolutely both share that and put it on our page, our resources page. I was wondering if there are particular pieces within that you think are, I didn't dig deeply into it, but.
The biomap one came up separately. Judy Green's a member of the land use subcommittee, and she had mentioned that. So I just sent that to you during the meeting because that was easy to say, oh, we should promote this. So that wasn't directly related to the VOC, although people could use it, obviously, to look at the lands that are under consideration there. But no, the suggestion was that we could promote right now without any kind of vote, without anything else, is just the importance of participation in the upcoming Conservation Commission meeting on January 17th, that the vocational school will be a topic of conversation. We can certainly promote that, and we can, I think.
And I've promoted CONCOM meetings before. But
I think we really want to say, did you know that the Conservation Commission will be discussing the site of the proposed new vocational school at the January 17th meeting? Some Wakefield residents have raised concerns about environmental impacts. Come find out more why. I think that's as close as we can go without saying here's an opinion on this. But I think we can allude to the fact that people have environmental concerns and sustainability concerns. So that was my suggestion, that we might just amplify that, repeat that a few times, or use slightly different wording. Certainly, I think would make the folks who have been coming to these different and they've come to other subcommittee meetings too. I think
Mhm.
you're on the waste reduction, right? And
Yep.
they come to that.
Yep.
I mean, part of it is I think they're, they've been frustrated, so they've been looking wherever they can engage, and not always where it might be most appropriate, but they're just trying to reach out. So,
Yep.
And then there'll be more conversation, but I thought that was the part most relevant here.
Yeah.
And then there were some other things that that are not directly connected, so I can hold off on that for a second. But other suggestions that came out of the land use committee. But that one it's more timely because it's 8 days away, and it's really relevant to, I imagine we'll have several people who want their say on Thursday.
Yep. Great. I'm adding it to the list right now, and I'll flush it out a little bit after the meeting. Good, thank you, good add.
And I gave Melissa a heads up. I'm sure she's sees it
Yep.
coming from other things, but
Well, while we're on the subject of social posts, do you want to share the other things from land use that are?
sure. The other main one is that there's this open space recreation committee planning process.
Mhm.
I'm on that planning process committee as the ESC rep.
Yep.
They had one meeting before the holidays that was very much talking about the rest of the process. So I think the real work of that committee hasn't started yet. And there's a consultancy out of Rhode Island that's doing most of the work on that.
Mhm.
But there is a 2005 report from the last time. So the last planning process of this sort happened leading up to 2005. The report was put out in 2005, and it was a 5-year planning process or report, 2005 to 2010. That
And then
is
nothing's
online.
happened since.
Well, I won't say nothing's
Then?
happened with it. It's just that I wasn't.
It was a
aware of it.
5-year planning process
Yeah.
or plan, and there wasn't a new one made at the end of that 5 years.
No.
specifically.
So that's happening now.
Got it. Yep.
But the reason I'm mentioning all this and why it came up is that if you go in there is a veritable boatload. Boatload is the appropriate term for a public meeting, of really great information and summary about recreational lands, but also heritage, historically relevant lands of it. Like all this stuff we've been talking about is nicely summarized in there. There's some old habitat maps, some of which I'm sure are outdated, and some of the things of concern may no longer be concerned. There are probably new concerns that aren't there. All sorts of information. So we should just be promoting. Do you know that this thing it's like an inventory of resources
Nice.
at a nice summary level, detailed enough to really be interesting, not so detailed as to be inaccessible.
Yeah.
I didn't know this thing existed, so I scanned through it. I want to go back and read it more. So on a basic level, we could just promote it every once in a while, saying this is a great resource if you want to learn more about the environmental natural resources in our town, because that's really what it's cataloging.
Yeah.
It goes well beyond just recreation. Option B, if you're so inclined, or if when I'm reading through I start taking notes, it's like we could be highlighting, it's probably fodder for like 50 fun facts about the resources of our town. Like we could be coming up with Facebook worthy and tweet worthy things.
Did you know this exists over here? Did you know you can access this place by? Yeah.
It's
That'd be great. Yeah.
It's a great resource. So I will send you a link to that.
Great. Yes, please.
But,
yeah, and as you're coming up with notes, I would say, do we ever get an answer on whether you can contribute to that doc of the? I think we said I think we didn't get a.
The answer that came up. I can't remember. I had chatted with Jen. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we also discussed it briefly at I think one of those, but
the bigger meeting.
Jen was like, yeah, once we both start editing a document together, it starts to get into like but I feel like if I just add things full text, that should be, but like that she wasn't 100% clear on that.
If you, as you're going through making notes, if you want to just occasionally send me an email and as close to the text that you want posted as possible is great.
Yeah.
And I'll just slot them all in. if that's the easy way to, it's no hardship for me to copy and paste them out of your email into the running list.
The other thing with, I think, all this is that there's this weird, and this wasn't the way Jen put it, but there's, I think the issue, if we CC the ESC inbox, then that raises everything to a level of transparency and record keeping. That if somebody wanted to do a freedom of information request for all the records, for all the discussions around, like, they were worried about something the ESC had done or something. If we CC that, we're right away elevating stuff to a place that's transparent because it's being indexed.
Right.
Whereas there's not a freedom of information, so, and then I guess the flip side is if somebody thought, well, that email crossed the line into deliberation because then, Sean sent an email and then Tiana responded to it. I guess that would be the downside of CCing the ESC, but my own personal, I'm saying this on a recorded meeting, so my own personal take is that if we CC that, that's a way of making sure there's record keeping so that anyone who had concerns later could find out what we were emailing about. And
there you go.
And in this case, where it really is just emailing about social media posts,
social media posts,
right. And it's going to end up on social media where it's also a public record, and you already know that, like, everything on the that's also being archived in an appropriate way, so that if Facebook were to shut down tomorrow, we'd still have a backup. So I guess that's, if we're ever concerned, we can just CC the ESC.
Hey, Dan. Oh, you're frozen and we can't hear you, but we see you. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Hello.
Oh,
Sorry I'm late. Been having some computer problems here. I'm up in Jackson, New Hampshire, and not at my home computer. So it took me a while to find the email online through Xfinity, and then to find your email to open it. And then here I am. Well, here I am.
Right.
So anyway.
Well, good. Glad you made it. We're on the agenda topic of our social media posts and reviewing what's been engaging and what's to come. Sean was just telling me about a bunch of great potential content coming out of some of the land use stuff, including the open space recreation, the report from last time, which has a bunch of great info that we may start to post about. And then any upcoming, so then Sean also had to add anything upcoming that folks can and should engage with, definitely send that over too, and we can post that stuff. So.
Okay, so I'm just gonna be an observer for this first couple of meetings and stuff, so I get a feel of what you guys are doing and have done and so forth and so on, and then I might be a little bit, I could probably add a little bit more at that point in time.
Sounds good. I'm happy to have you. Sean, anything else on social media stuff?
No, I'm sending you this link, and it's especially sections 4 and 5 of that open space report where they have the inventories of environmental resources, and it's, geology, landscape, water resource, and then 5 is more kind of conservation, recreation interest.
Right.
So I think it's pretty cool, and it's this like 100-page document that
nice
things I didn't know about our town. So
and probably most people didn't, so worth our promoting it.
Yep,
that's great. Cool. All right, well, I think that's all for social media stuff. Do you want to do an update on the email list?
Yeah, won't be much of an update. I have the email list set up. I actually did create the list. I haven't sent out things. One thing we had talked about was just using it to push out everything from the Facebook. And I just wanted to know what a good workflow for that might be. One way of doing it, because a benefit of email is that it pushes. Another benefit of email is it doesn't have to be at the same frequency. So if you're putting everything on the post on that online document.
Yeah, and I update the online document after I post something. I'll put in the far column like posted and shared. But yeah, I'm
So-
putting everything in there.
So so of course we can forward out other things to that list and like forward out our meeting announcements or other things that might be, but I thought just maybe, and this is what I was wondering what you thought the right frequency is, once a week, once every other week. Send out a single email with multiple Facebook posts.
Mhm.
I don't think we have the bandwidth, like the Facebook posts are like, we're not going to go and expand on them and like, ooh, here's the, the insider subscription content. I don't think anyone cares that much about it that they'll want that, but we could put, if you put out 5 in a week, they could go in one
Mhm.
email.
Right. Like a
And
digest.
I thought that was more realistic also for a workflow for me or
Mhm.
future volunteers, than
Yeah, that makes sense.
than trying to send out an email every time you post it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say use your judgment. I don't know that everything that I post necessarily is, so enlightening that folks want it in an email. Although if it's a
Mhm.
digest, then I think that ameliorates some of the concern of flooding folks' inboxes.
Mhm.
The only thing I would watch out for is if there are timely things. So,
Hmm.
if there's an email that is a reminder for, the next Concom meeting, which is
Mhm.
in 8 days, if we wait to, the end of the week to share that out, it might be too late for folks. So,
And
uh,
and then the other use for the email, since Dan is here, this is appropriate, is to reach out with potential volunteer opportunities. And then Dan, if you're getting new volunteers, I have the emails I put on that list. So this is the e-list software that I have access to at Tufts, but it archives the messages and it's open and the ESC is on it. So it'll also go to ESC. If you're getting new email addresses of volunteers, we should add them to this list as well. But this is kind of a single stop listserv that, and so probably easier for you than sending a lot of messages, and more appropriate if we have a single thing, because then things will be archived as well. So,
Okay, so as I get the email addresses from people who have volunteered, you want me to add them to the list?
yeah, and you can either send them to me to add, or I can give you, it's a fairly simple online interface. So if you want, I can give you access as a list manager so that you can add people directly if you'd rather just do that. If you don't want to deal with that, then just send them to me, because it's not hard to add them. So either way is fine by me.
All right, well, make me manager and I'll add them.
Okay, will do. So you're already a member of that list. I don't know if you would remember, you got like a welcome. Everyone on the committee was added to the list when I set it up. So you had a welcome message, and I think that's the only message you should have received over it. All right. ESC announce at elist.tufts.edu was the address.
yeah, I think that sounds like a good plan to send things as a digest, and then anything timely can go on its own, perhaps, if depending on the time. Sounds great. Thanks for setting that up. And then, yeah, like if we have we're tabling at this thing, we need a few volunteers, that can go out in its own. I think I would say if there's like a really specific, again, I guess timely call to action, that might warrant its own email so that people flagging it or, can remember that that's why they flagged it. But, general information stuff sounds good to have, just gather up some of the week.
Sounds good. Dan, I just
Awesome.
added you as an owner. I hope you get an email that includes some instructions, but if not, then you and I can touch base later about how to use it.
All right, I'll check that out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be sending out the emails to the prospective volunteers tonight. I didn't want to do it, as you probably saw in my email, in the midst of the holidays and so forth and so on. So we'll see what we actually get back for volunteers, and then we'll go from there.
Anything else on email?
No?
Okay. Next topic is our upcoming first ever educational event. Very excited. It's like the meat of this committee. I mean, social media posts are nice, but it's really, in-person educational event. It's very exciting. So in case you hadn't heard, we have booked Gretchen Carey, who had come to us from Republic Services, our recycling and trash hauler, for February 1st. It's a Wednesday. And we have booked the library, the lecture room, which is the big room, the library. It's at 7 o'clock. Wakefield Cable Access Television is going to record the whole thing and produce it all nice and spiffy for us so that we have it as a video that can be saved and shared and sent around later, and they can have it on their feed and whatnot. And she's going to do some info about recycling, similar to what she did for our committee meeting a month or two ago, but probably a little bit more, since she'll have a little more time and be the only, she'll be the only topic instead of being part of a meeting, and then take questions from the audience. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. She's excited about it too.
Great.
Yeah.
So have you listened to her podcast at all?
I've listened to one or two of them. Yeah. Yeah. She's very I think she's quite an engaging speaker. So I think for a topic like recycling, she's going to make it fun and interesting. She certainly, has a lot of insight to share, which is good.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah. And I'd shared to you, Sean, I hadn't shared yet to Dan, but I can, or we can just let's just take a quick look at it while we're all here together. I had started to put together some promotional materials. So this is just the straight up content, just like the wordy content. So if folks want to take a sec to read that and give me any feedback. I got an email back from Melissa with one or two grammatical things, and I got a note from Gretchen about she has a new title. Her title, she's sustainability. I don't remember. It's in my email. So I need to update her title, and she gave me a new headshot. But take a quick read. Tell me if you see anything you'd change.
Really small. I would just put an "and" before President of Mass Recycle, so it's clear that there's 3 separate titles.
Thank you. I like this because this needs to be.
Yeah. Looks good to me otherwise.
And
I don't know if
started to
I
make
don't know
it
if we also
into.
want to hyperlink, if that's for online. I don't know if we also want to hyperlink to or LinkedIn or something like that, or she wouldn't appreciate that.
I'll ask her. I'll ask her what if anything she would like linked. That's a great call. And I started to put it together in a poster format. This can go in. So I coordinated with Jennifer in the communications group. We can do a poster like so to go in those poster thingamabobbers in town. There's like one near the bank, and there's one right by the parking lot across from the hardware store, a couple of them around. And then she can put it on the electronic screens that are in a couple of places. I think they're maybe in the library and the senior center. So I am not a graphic designer, and I'm hoping that, maybe one of our upcoming volunteers or one of the student members will be someone for whom this is a skill they like to practice. But time is of the essence, given that this event is now only like 3 weeks away. So this will probably be fine for this one. And if we get someone who's good at this stuff, then they can take that over in the future for future events.
Do we have
so my wife and I, in our past lives, were graphic artists.
Oh, now
So
I'm
we can take-
embarrassed. Cool. If I send this to you, do you want to make it look a little nicer?
We'll look at it and we'll you know, give you some ideas and stuff like that.
Okay.
Just a question. So what I'm seeing right now on the screen is what you want us to look at.
Yeah, this is a poster that could be posted around around town for this event. I think it has too many words on it for a poster.
Yeah, just right off the top of my head, people don't read. And so you want to, you know, recycle myth busted is great. It's kind of wordy underneath, but I'll take a look at that and I'll give you my, you know, our inputs.
Sounds good. I'd be happy to have some input. But I need quick turnaround time input because I want to try to get this over to Jennifer in the next couple of days so that it can get
I'll
up
do
for
it
the
tomorrow and email you.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Dan, did we actually get to the point of having a logo? I know we have the Wakefield town logo on the top of our agenda things and stuff. And I think just having that with the ESC text would be good. But did we, I know you had worked on a committee logo at one point on the letter last year. I don't know if we ended up using that or if where the conversation went.
Well, we were putting out a letter for the, you know, for the school work and stuff like that. And then I got involved with, you know, with Sherry and the town, their style document and stuff like that. And so we ended up with what you see on the letterhead and stuff like that. I still have that old logo with the artwork and stuff like that, which is not, you know, we have the rights for it and stuff like that. And I can send that out. We can probably discuss that at the next meeting on Thursday. Because
or
you know,
even just the letterhead from the agendas would, but something there to show
That it's us.
Yeah.
Good
Yes.
add.
Okay, I got it.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll send this over to you when we get out of the meeting. I'm happy for any feedback. And so then for publicity, so I'm going to send it. I'll get the poster. We'll get it cleaned up and then send it to Jennifer to post in the poster places and to do the electronic board. I'm going to get the event itself on the town calendar. She suggested we can send it to the Patch, that they have a calendar for things. Obviously, I'll send it out on our Facebook. We can put it in the email list. And then I was going to share with the, I don't remember who, someone at the library, when we booked the room for the library, they said, oh, well, you know, can we help you spread the word? So now that we'll have sort of the description tidied up, they can help promote that as well through their channels. And then I was hoping our high school committee members can also share it around at the high school in whatever ways they think are best, to see if any of the high school students want to come to.
Yeah, I think at the library, in addition to the framed things, I think the table, when that's kind of in the first big room when you walk in, I think they sometimes have those plastic sign holders with things. So hopefully they'll put it there too, because I notice those more than I notice the bigger things on the side. So
yeah. Well, they were excited about the event and volunteer. Like, I didn't even say anything. They offered to help and to help promote, and just said, you know, send us when you have, you know, an actual title and description and stuff like that, send it our way. So I was just waiting to, you know, get the details tidy and make sure, you know, it all looked good to Gretchen, since we're using her name and likeness. So I'll send that around to them and they can for sure help promote. So
great.
The other thing is, are we posting anything on the generic Wakefield Facebook pages?
I think Jennifer will. Yeah, when I send her this poster and the content, she'll promote it in all of the typical town ways that an event gets promoted. So yeah, she can send that out.
But this would definitely be one to share to the non-town operated Facebook groups.
Right.
That, you know, that we do share some of the posts, but not all of them. So
I share most of them.
oh, you're sharing most
I
of
do
them?
share
Okay.
most of them. Occasionally, I will not share one if it feels real niche,
Mhm.
but I actually do share probably 80% of them to both of the community groups.
The town group things, the community group things have gotten de-emphasized in my feed for some reason. I think I stopped engaging with it in the same way, and now I don't see them as much. So I'm sorry if I've been missing that. It used to be that the town groups were always in my feed, and lately less so.
At least one of them has lately been really overrun with spammy stuff, like the fake, like scam, missing person, missing dog, hit and run kind of, have you seen this dog? Please help us find this dog. And then someone said this one's a scam. I just saw it on 3 other groups. So I think it might be also suffering from some of that.
No.
The other piece on education events is that hopefully if this one goes well, we should think about what next educational event we want to do. I know, Sean, you thought there might be some food related educational topic we might want to spin up.
There's a bunch of food related things that and I'd be happy to tap some of my colleagues or students on that. So certainly, any number of topics about food use in the household. There's a lot of research, including in my research group, on environmental impacts of dietary patterns and stuff like that. So if that's a topic of interest, I have a colleague who teaches a class on food justice, and a lot of our students are really interested in that. So it'd be a few topics. So if there's one there, kind of food and sustainability interfaces, be happy to put together something. I mean, I could put together a presentation, but I'd rather bring in some of my colleagues instead. But
yeah,
we've got some good stuff there, and be open to doing that for this audience.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I've got, so my own work focuses heavily on food labels, and I've got a lot on sustainability labels. So like if you wanted something and like wanted me to come in and do something because you needed something, that's where I have something that's more ready to go for the public, that is fairly up to date, that I've given in different contexts. So that's one I could do, but the other ones might be of higher interest. So
yeah, I could see something on either food justice or personal dietary choices, impact of personal dietary choices being real engaging for folks in town. So I should consider one of those. Do you want to reach out to your colleagues about it and like pick a date out into March or April, or do you want to get to the other side of this event and see what we learn?
Let's see how this one goes. But I will, I'm making a calendar note. There's just a meeting where I regularly see some of the relevant colleagues, and I'm making a calendar note to bring it up there as well.
Cool, great. And maybe at the event, February 1st, we can poll the audience on if there are particular topics that they'd be interested in seeing future events on. Either as like, here are a few we'd consider, are any of these interesting, or also just give us some ideas.
Yeah.
Since people who will come out on Wednesday night to hear about recycling might also be the people who will come out on a night to hear about food justice. So cool. Our final topic before matters not anticipated is just picking a date for the next meeting. If y'all
Are we on a second Monday of the month?
I think
Is
so.
that our?
I think that's our cadence these days. Yeah. So that would be February 13th. Valentine's Eve, if that matters to you, but
No. It makes me wonder what type of day before Valentine's traditions you have, but
I have none. I was just noticing that was the date. All right. Does that day work for you, Sean, and for you, Dan?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. Then it will be so. Any Matters not anticipated.
It just, yeah, so, I've been given a lot of thought. I've always understood that, the education, I was a teacher for a while and stuff like that is very powerful, in getting people to understand things. And one of the problems that people have with environmental issues is that they quickly become overwhelmed and they shut down. And so I've been given a lot of thought to that and so forth and so on. I want to just put some of that into words and stuff like that. And I'll send you and Sean an email, and maybe we can expand on that as to, the kids are really involved. I don't think we have to worry too much about them. They understand it's their future. And that's an ongoing type of thing. But I think, just regular people, adults and so forth and so on, they kind of say, well, there's nothing I can do, and so I'm not going to think about it and all of that. But the thing of it is, there is things that they can do. There's many, many different things. We ought to kind of explore what those things are. And then kind of say, okay, yeah, we understand, but it is a, something that can be done. And, maybe take little steps, or, just, it needs to become part of a lifestyle. And I think it just starts with just thinking about it a little bit in different ways. And then taking little steps and doing little things here and there, and then just continuing that. And maybe we can foster that type of thing. So I'll put my thoughts down on an email instead of, just trying to blurb it out here. And then we can all take a look at it, add it, and then maybe turn it over to some volunteers to do some things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to think about what other other ways that we want to try to reach people, because some of what you're describing, like some of the little steps, here are first few things you can do, are a lot of what we have been posting on social media. But is that the way to reach people, for them to say, oh yeah, that is a step I could do? Why don't I sign up for composting? Why don't I reuse my gift wrap? Little things.
Yeah.
How we can get.
Again, one of the things that we can do, and I don't know how many people use calendars nowadays, paper calendars and even email calendars and stuff like that. But, maybe just, you take a look at a calendar and it has a little subtitle in each day and so something like that. And, again, these are the things that I've been thinking about. And there may be many, many others, maybe better venues, better ways of addressing it. But I'll put it in the email, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, good to see you both, and see you
too.
for what might be a marathon on Thursday.
Yes. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you both so much.
Bye.
Bye.